Hey guys, I've got my makeup recommendations for you today for the Sephora VIB sale or Beauty Insider event, I think is the official title. Yesterday's video was my recommendations on skincare, hair care, body care, fragrances, etc. If you're interested in that, that went up yesterday. I'll link it down below in my description box. So if you're a Rouge member, you're going to be able to start shopping this evening, 12 midnight on the East Coast. So you'll get 20% off the entire site, and I'll leave down below in the description box like when the other start dates are for the other tiers for VIB and for insiders. And I believe you'll get 15% off if you're VIB, 10% off if you're insider. Anyway, let's just dive right into this because, like I said, I have 30 recommendations, and I am just going to start with primers. I'm just going to go from primer all the way down to lip products. I put a few of the products on my face. We'll do cutaways to that, much like my favorites videos. So let's dive right in. The first primer I want to talk about, I've talked about this in many like favorites, all-time favorite kind of videos. This is the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enrich Face Base. This is a beautiful, beautiful moisturizing kind of primer. I have very dry skin, so I really like a primer that is moisturizing first and foremost. If it does other things like pore blurring or skin smoothing, all of that is great. This does a bit of skin smoothing, and I really feel like it's a nice prep before makeup. So I do my regular skincare, you know, my toner, serum, oil, moisturizer, SPF, all of that stuff, and then I will go ahead and put this on top. I don't use this in lieu of my moisturizer. If you don't have extremely dry skin like I do, you probably could use this in lieu of your moisturizer. I get that question a lot, like, do I add this or do I use it instead of some of my skincare? It has a really fluffy texture. It has a very light kind of citrus grapefruit scent, which I happen to enjoy. I know some people don't really like that, so I do want to mention that. But I love the texture, I love the scent, I love the way it makes my skin feel, and I really, really love the way it preps my skin for makeup above all of that. So that's the Vitamin Enrich Face Base. The other primer I wanted to talk about is newer to my collection, and that is what I decided to put on my face today just to show you, because I've used this for you guys for a gazillion years now, it feels like. So the Dior Forever Glow Veil Primer. I just got this probably about a month ago, and I've been using it nonstop. It has a lighter texture than the Bobbi Brown. It comes in a pump, and let me just pump some out so you can see. So it has like a light kind of lotiony texture. You can see it starting to run down the back of my hand. And it has just the slightest bit of glow. And hopefully you could see it in this cutaway where I'm applying it to my face. But let me just kind of show you on the back of my hand here. Maybe it's a little bit more clear. But it just gives you this really beautiful pearly sheen. And if you like kind of sheer foundations like I do, you'll still see a bit of this kind of coming up from underneath. So I really love the finish of this. I really like the texture. Again, it's very, very lightweight. It's very moisturizing. It feels really great on the skin, and it is very, very smoothing. So I do feel like it kind of leaves my skin feeling and prepped for makeup, much like the Bobbi Brown, but they are very, very different products. And I really like this subtle sheen that the Dior primer gives, and the Bobbi Brown doesn't have any sheen at all. So so that's the Dior Forever Glow Veil Primer, which I've really been enjoying, and it has like a slight kind of floral, fresh kind of fragrance, but nothing overwhelming. Okay, and in terms of foundation, I only have two here. This one I've just been reaching for a lot, so this was kind of a no-brainer. This is the La Mer, the Radiant Skin Tint with SPF 30. I just love this. You know, it has a really lightweight coverage. It really feels like skincare. It really feels like a La Mer product before a makeup product. And yeah, it just sits really, really well. I feel like this is such an easy product. I can put it on with my fingers. I can put it on with a brush. I can just kind of like dab it in areas where I, you know, just want to even things out, usually like around my cheeks, around my eyes. It's just easy. I do feel like this is kind of like tinted skincare more than a makeup product. And I just really, really enjoy it. So I have the shade Light 22, and it's just sort of like my go-to everyday skin tint. So that is one. The other one is one that I actually have not used in a while. I just started using it again because it is a tinted SPF, and I have it on today, and I forgot how much I love, love, love this foundation. It has a little bit more coverage than the La Mer, and I'm talking about the NARS Pure Radiant Tinted Moisturizer SPF 30 Sunscreen. Now, it's called a tinted moisturizer, but I remember I actually got on a call with some of the makeup artists over at NARS, and they were like, it's really more of a tinted SPF. And one of the makeup artists actually will reapply this during the day on top of other makeup. And because it's just tinted, it just goes on like beautifully. It's so smooth. And again, it's what I have on my face today. And it leaves my skin looking really soft. It's just a really wonderful foundation. Like I said, it has a little bit more coverage than the La Mer. So if you're looking for something a little bit more, if you're looking for a little bit more help, who isn't? This is a really good option. And I'm glad I kind of rediscovered this. Oh, and the shade that I wear is Norwich Light 1.5. I would also say the texture of these two are very similar, just kind of like a lotion texture. And because of that, I feel like you can put it on with your fingers or brush like really easily. So these are my two base product recommendations for this sale, because we're going into spring, summer, and I do like the extra SPF, right? It doesn't hurt. Concealer. Now, I'm gonna sound like a completely broken record, but the Dior Forever Skin Correct Concealer, it's what I continue to use. It's what I have on underneath my eyes and around my nose today. They just recently reformulated this, so I was a little worried that I wasn't gonna like it as much as the original, but I like it just as much. I think it performs just as nicely as the original. It comes in this giant tube. It lasts forever. I use the shade 2N. The shades are a little bit different. So this 2N I find to be a little bit lighter than the 2N in the original formula. So it works for me because that 2N was starting to get too deep for me because I was just like kind of losing color throughout the winter. I had to go down to 1N, but in the new version of this, the 2N works great for me. So again, I have it underneath my eyes, around my nose, little spots on my face. It's just great. I love the texture. It's super creamy. It blends out perfectly. It wears beautifully. I have absolutely no complaints about this concealer. And I keep trying other concealers. A bunch of new concealers came out recently, and they just don't, in my book, they just don't measure up to this one. Like the Tom Ford Stick Concealer, even though it's completely different, but like the Valentino Concealer, the Givenchy Concealer, which I liked, but I just like this one more. So anyway, this would be my recommendation for the sale. Okay, powders. So I kind of stop, not full stop, but I kind of back away from using powders every single day in the fall, winter time. My dry skin, I don't need it as much, but come spring, summertime, I definitely like to pull my powders back out, just because even though I have dry skin, I just tend to get shinier. It's so hot. I'm here in Vegas. It's so hot. I get so sweaty. I have one loose powder pick for you and one pressed powder pick for you. My loose powder pick is the what am I holding? I'll talk about that in just a second. I have the Say Air Set Radiant Loose Setting Powder in Translucent. This is what I have on my face today. It is a really beautiful, just slightly radiant. I mean, I think the word radiant is an overstatement. It really just kind of leaves your skin looking not matte and not dry and not flat. It's just a very natural kind of finish, yet it does do its job in terms of it being a powder. It really kind of sets down makeup. I think it brings down any sort of excess shine beautifully. So I do really love the Say loose powder, and I'm just a big fan of loose powder. I know it's not the most practical, but I feel like if you use just a little bit on a really big fluffy brush, it just makes your skin look really kind of like cottony soft. Anyway, that is my loose powder pick. And for pressed powder, I wanted to mention, let me open this up, the Westman Atelier Vital Press Skincare Powder, and I have it in the shade Creme. And there are 5 shades to this powder, and this powder is really wonderful for more, at least for me, more targeted sort of areas. So it really does a great job blurring. So I have bigger, pores right around here. I'll kind of press the powder in there. I'll just kind of lightly dust it over as well. It looks beautiful, kind of setting down concealer. It's very smoothing, it's very blurring. And if you prefer like the pressed version of powder, just because it really is so much more practical, it's easier to travel with, it's easier to throw into your bag. Like you're not gonna throw loose powder into your bag. This is a really great option. And then if I use like a big fluffy brush and just pick up a little bit, I can just kind of brush it all over my face quickly. But that is my pressed powder pick for this sale. Really great at blurring. Okay, so for contour, I wanted to mention the Westman Atelier Face Trace Contour Stick in the shade Biscuit. There are more shades than just this one now. This is what she first came out with. This is such a good shade. It's also just such a great formula because it just blends out really easily. But this shade is just such the perfect contour shade. I think for a while there, the contours that we were using were really meant for makeup artists. They were very, very gray. And I think in real life and for everyday use, it was a little too stark. It would be very effective and it would definitely mimic a shadow, which is what you wanted. But for me personally, just for like everyday use when people like, you know, out on the street in the sunlight are gonna see you, I just wanted something with like a little bit more warmth, but I get the difference between contour and bronzer. And so you want it a little bit on the cool side. This just hits it so, so perfectly. It's brown, it's neutral, but it has just the slightest hint of a gray underneath. But really it's this formula because it just blends out beautifully. Contour can be very, very intimidating to someone who's never done it or who doesn't wear a lot of makeup. But if you just kind of add this just like strategically kind of back by your cheekbones, maybe a little bit on the tip of your nose, maybe a little bit on the sides of your forehead, it really is wonderful and it just blends out like a dream, and it's not tacky or anything on the skin. It's a wonderful, wonderful cream product. So I wanted to mention that. I'm going to be mentioning Westman Atelier a lot in this video. I think they're the most mentioned brand, I think, on my list. Another cream contour slash bronzer I wanted to mention is the Shade and Illuminate Cream Contour Duo from Tom Ford. This is in shade intensity 0.5, so this is the lightest. And let me actually swatch this next to the Westman Atelier. And I'm gonna blend that out a little bit. So this one has, I don't know if you can see it, it's just a touch warmer than this. Do you see how this one next to this almost looks a little gray? So I feel like this Tom Ford shade is really nice for both bronzer and for contour. It's just a little bit warmer than what I would like to use as just contour, like this face trace. This is a little bit warmer, and so I feel like, sure, I can put it where I do want to contour, but I can also kind of like lightly brush it where I just want to bronze up my face a little bit. And it's a really, really beautiful formula. The Tom Ford is just, it's like just a touch more emollient than the Westman Atelier. I wouldn't say it stays like tacky on the face. It will kind of set down, but it is more emollient than the Westman Atelier, just FYI. And then this highlight is really beautiful too, but I do reach for this when I think of the contour. But the highlight is really, really nice. If you like kind of like a subtle cream highlight, it does just a little bit for your cheeks. So anyway, that is another kind of cream option in the contour bronzer arena. And then a bronzer that I love, a cream bronzer that I love, is from Saie. They just came out with 2 new shades, and this is one of them. This is Fair Bronze. So I believe this is the lightest shade in their line. I was using light bronze before, and now I'm using Fair Bronze. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous bronzer. The tone of it is so, so beautiful. Let me just add it to my hand here. So here is the Saie light bronze. So it has like a little bit of peachiness in there. It's even lighter than these two, I think. Well, let me give you a deeper swatch. But do you see that kind of peachy warmth in there? It's so gorgeous, and it really makes for a beautiful bronze. This formula is gorgeous. It blends beautifully. I don't think it's tacky on the skin. It sets down, all those things. And what I really love, actually what I really love about all of these is that they blend really, really beautifully. And that's really important when it comes to contour and bronzer. You don't want to end up with like a bronzer helmet, and you definitely don't want a contour that isn't blended out. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. So anyway, these blend out beautifully. And I hope you can see the difference here between like contour, one that I think that works for both, and then this one I think is just a great bronzer. All right, and I have two more powder bronzers. I mean, we're going into spring, summer, right? So this is when I really, really like amp up my bronzer usage. This bronzer has been my like all-time favorite for at least 2 or 3 years now. This is the Tom Ford Glow Bronzer in the shade Terra. And I would like to think that the past iterations of the Tom Ford bronzer have been forgotten. But the first one was fine. It was like a pressed powder. Then the second one they came out with was kind of terrible. It was a baked version of this powder and you just couldn't pick it up, and it ended up being, it was hard to apply. Anyway, this, as far as I can remember, is the third iteration of their bronzer, and this one to me is the best. It's soft, it blends out beautifully. This is the shade Terra, which I believe is the only shade that I saw that was left on Sephora. So I don't know if they're discontinuing this bronzer or they're only using this particular shade now. I don't know what the deal is, but number one, which was I think Golden Sun, it was lighter, but it was warmer. So I always opted for Terra because I thought it was the most neutral. And this is actually what I have on my face today. So I just have it kind of dusted all over. I'm using it as a contour, I'm using it as a bronzer. Let me just do a quick swatch for you. So it's this right here. Just a really beautifully neutral bronzer. It's perfection. In my book, this formula, the finish, which is just basically like a demi satin, and this tone is like chef's kiss. It's just perfect. So I'm glad it's still around. I don't know. I don't know how much longer it's going to be around. And then the last bronzer I'm going to talk about is the Haus Labs Power Sculpt bronzer. I really fell in love with this. This is a newish kind of bronzer to my collection, but I really like the formula. I really like the tone. It is a little bit, I don't know if you can see, it's obviously lighter than the Tom Ford. It has a little bit more yellow than the Tom Ford. This one has a little bit more red, but this is really nice just for a little bit, like a little kiss of sun, where the Tom Ford is a little bit more serious. It's just a really beautiful formula where I feel like it blends out beautifully. It's a pressed powder, but there's a slight kind of creaminess to it. So I don't know if you can see that. So it applies really evenly. I've really been enjoying this. Oh, and the shade that I have is Light Level 2. So that is the last bronzer I'm going to talk about. All right, in terms of blushes, I wanted to mention the Valentino Eye to Cheek. These are just beautiful. They're like a cream to powder kind of formula. They're very, very creamy if you go and you swatch them. And this one is shade number 4. And they just have this beautiful finish to them where, I don't want to say they're iridescent, but there is a reflect to them. There's a slight, like very, very slight kind of color shiftiness to it. Just really, really beautiful. And they just apply beautifully. They're pigmented, but they're not too much. They just blend out really beautifully. So that's number 4. I also have number 3, which is more of a lilac shade. It's much cooler in tone. This one is so fun because I don't have a lot of blushes in this kind of cool toned pink, but then the reflect, I hope you can see that. The reflect is a little bit warm. Can you see it up there? It's like a peachy gold. Oh, it's stunning. It's so, so beautiful. So that's shade number 3. And then I have this limited edition one. I don't think it's still available, but I really loved this one. This is from the Star Studs edition. I think this was over the holidays. This is shade number 112. And I wouldn't necessarily call this a blush. And I thought it was going to be too deep as a highlight for me, but it worked out great. And I just kind of put it all over my cheek. Like I fell in love with the finish so much that I didn't just put it here. I just put it everywhere. Anyway, here is a swatch of that. And yeah, it looks so dark on my hand, but I think because the reflect is fairly bright, it looked okay over here. And this is definitely one that would look really beautiful on the eyes. So these are meant for your eyes and your cheeks, but I always kind of end up getting shades, or I'm attracted to the shades that are more for the cheeks. This one I can definitely use for cheeks and eyes. But I want to pick up more of these, and I think I may during this sale. Which reminds me, I'm going to be doing a shop with me, which, if all goes well, will go up tomorrow, which is the first full day of the sale, and we'll do like a shop with me, you know, what's going in my cart, what's on my wish list, all that kind of stuff. So definitely stay tuned for that. These are definitely on the wish list. Another blush I had to recommend. These really blew me away last year. These are the RMS Redimension Hydra Powder blushes. These came out last year, right? Yeah, I think this was last summer. Anyway, I got 5 of them. I'm sure you remember me talking about these probably nonstop last year. Anyway, this one is Maiden's Blush. This one is Mai Tai. This one is Sangria. This one is Pomegranate Fizz. And this one is French Rosé. So here they are all swatched. So Maiden's Blush, Mai Tai, Sangria, Pomegranate Fizz, and French Rosé. I use Maiden's Blush and French Rosé the most, but I love them all. They're beautiful. Look at that sheen. That finish is just absolutely gorgeous. These are also refillable, so you can like pop these shades out and just get a refill. And these are all like a baked gel powder formula, but they're super soft. They're not hard to pick up the way some, baked products can be. They're just really, really soft. I mean, the formula of these is incredible. And I happen to like a bright, bold blush, especially come the spring, summertime. I just feel like it's so youthful looking. I should mention, I think I'm missing one of these blushes. I think there's one that's like a deeper plum color that I've passed on. So I think there's 6 shades altogether in that RMS blush. Okay, the last blush I'm gonna mention that I also have on, oh, wait a second. I wanted to mention the Westman Atelier Baby Cheeks blush sticks, and I don't have that on my list. That's a terrible oversight. Well, I've talked about the Westman Atelier Baby Cheeks blush sticks a lot, so I continue to love those. I didn't leave them off this list on purpose. Anyway, let's move on to the last blush that's on my list. This is the Dior Rouge blush in the shade 459 Charnel. This is like a long time love of mine, and it is what I have on my cheeks today. It's one of those blushes that when I look at it in the pan, it looks fairly neutral. I feel like any other formula of a shade that looks like this would warm up on my cheeks. It would end up looking super peachy, but this actually stays fairly neutral, and it always works with whatever bronzer I have on. It goes on really smoothly. Let me do a swatch. And it's really, really just a beautiful, like velvety kind of blush. The finish is not necessarily flat. It's not necessarily like a shiny satin like the RMS. There's just a little something to keep it from looking too dry on your cheeks. And it's gorgeous. Gorgeous. I love, love, love this Charnel shade. And then the Westman Atelier Super Loaded Tinted Highlights. These are such an interesting product. So this is Peau de Pêche. This is still my favorite shade. This is the very first one that they came out with. And I remember when I first got it, it has a sheen like a highlight, but it has a tint like a blush. I could never really figure out how to use it, and then kept playing around with it. Gucci Westman, she does a lot of like quick videos and things like on her Instagram, and one day I saw her use these and she just sort of brushed it all over her cheek. Nowhere specific, not meant to do anything specific like a contour or a highlight. It just kind of brightened up her whole area. And so from then on, I was like, oh, I'm gonna use this as sort of a cheek base product. And so when I lay this down really lightly and I just, brush it basically from where I would highlight down to where I would bronze, it just sort of like sets a beautiful kind of canvas for other cheek products. If you want to add some blush to kind of brighten up a little bit, if you want to add a little bit more highlight to be a little bit more reflective, add a little bit more bronze, like this will just sort of like amplify all of your other products, and it is really, really beautiful. So I love the Peau de Pêche because that's how I like to use it. But they do have a Peau de Soleil. And when I use this one, I just use it kind of like in my bronzer area. It is pigmented enough, I think, to be a bronzer all by itself. And then there are some other ones like Peau de Santé. I don't know if this is on Sephora, but these are more blushy. And these also have like a little bit more of a highlight and like, I don't want to say micro glitter, like micro glitter. There's like a little glitziness to it when you look at it in the sunlight. So that's Peau de Santé. And then this is Peau de Rosé, which is an even cooler pink, but it reminds me of the Santé because it has that kind of micro glitteriness to it. And it is more of a highlight versus these two. But Peau de Pêche, that one is my favorite by far. And in terms of a cream highlight, you guys know how much I love the Westman Atelier Lit Up Highlight Stick in the shade Nectar. This is still just such an ideal, beautiful like formula and shade. And so I have it tapped on to my cheeks here. I just love a highlight that is really, really glossy, especially in the spring, summertime. It just gives me like enough of a glow. I just love it. And this Nectar shade is so gorgeous. I don't even know if you can see it, but it's right here. It's gorgeous. I continue to love this and probably always will. And then the other highlight I have been loving, I've been talking about this a lot ever since I got it. These are the new Charlotte Tilbury Glow Glide Face Architect highlights. And I use the shade Champagne Glow. I believe there's five or six shades altogether. Champagne Glow is, I think, like second to the lightest. There's one, I think, Moonlit Glow, which is a little bit lighter. That's a little too frosty on my skin. This one looks the most, natural, natural as far as highlights go. But let me do a swatch. I just love how smooth this powder is. Isn't that pretty? Again, we get kind of like a glossy kind of finish with that. And I really, really love it. If you really kind of like work it in with like a dense brush, it really looks like you're polishing up your cheeks. It is gorgeous. So this has definitely been a favorite of mine. All right, let's move on to eyes. Since we just talked about Charlotte Tilbury, why don't we just kind of stay there? The Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize in Oyster Pearl. This is not a new product. It's not a new shade. It's just something I have fallen completely in love with and have been using very, very consistently, I would say over the past 6 to 8 months. I just can't seem to put this down. I've even actually put quite a dent in there, at least for me. You guys know I don't wear a lot of makeup, but I just love this shade. I just think it's the perfect one and done shade. It is just really beautiful. It's like smoky in a really subtle way, and then the undertone of it is this kind of warm kind of peach. I have come to really enjoy this formula. When I first used these, I thought it was kind of fussy because they were so soft. I always picked up a little bit too much, and then I was, kind of left with like too much eyeshadow on my lids. But now that I know how to use them, and what I like to do is dab my brush into the product, and then I'll dab it into the lid to kind of like work it into the brush to kind of get the excess off, to spread it over the brush evenly. So now that I feel like I'm more comfortable with them, I've just been using this kind of nonstop. So the Oyster Pearl in Eyes to Mesmerize, I feel like this is really going to be my go-to spring summer eye look, right? Isn't that just stunning? And then the new Tom Ford Forbidden Pink eyeshadow quad. You guys knew I was going to bring this up. But I love, love, love this creme formula. They're like a cream to powder kind of formula. They're really, really easy to blend, nicely pigmented. And I was a little like unhappy with the idea of more like pink eyeshadows. I'm like, oh, I just don't think we need any more pink eyeshadows. But this is surprisingly neutral with these two shades having the most pink in them, and not even that much. But let me do some swatches. Oh, I just love, love, love this formula. So here are the 4 shades. So you can see a pink in there, but it's not like this bright pink situation where it's gonna make your eyes look bloodshot and make you look like you have pink eye. It just has like a pink hint to it. And so I really love it. And I'm so, so, so in love with this cream formula ever since it came out. And I'm so glad they're kind of like going with it. I was afraid it was just going to be a limited edition whim, the way Tom Ford is with their products. But I'm glad they're like coming out with more and more color stories in this cream formula. So that quad I've really been loving. And then I couldn't resist. Some oldies but goodies. So the Natasha Denona Glam palette. I mean, everyone out there probably has this palette already, but it's so good. It's so good. I continue to reach for this. I continue to think of it like, oh, what am I gonna do the Glam palette. It's still the palette that like pops into my mind. If it was smaller, I would probably travel with it. I never really travel with this because it's big. I also don't want it to break because it's my precious Glam palette. And today I decided to use this shade like on the inner portion of my lid, and I just sort of blended it out. And then I used this outer eyelid shade up here, and I just put that on the outer corner and blended it in. So easy. I mean, these shades are just, you can't go wrong with the colors, the actual shades, but the formulas are great too. We've got 5 mattes in there, and the rest are shimmers. And there's so many one and done shades in here, like these mid-tone taupe shades. You guys know I go crazy for those. And I just, yeah, I just continue to love, love, love this palette. So I had to recommend it, even though it's like old news, Michelle. I still love it. The other palette that I think is yeah, it's even older than this, but I continue to love it, is the Pat McGrath Mothership 1 palette. I mean, if you haven't picked it up yet, why not? Why not pick it up this go round? This shade I actually have in my crease. I just kind of added it after I used the Glam palette and just blended those shades kind of together and like into my crease a little bit. But this is, to me, like the ultimate like cool toned palette. I love these 3 shades the most. And I've had this palette forever. I'm thinking it's probably time for me to pick up a new one during the sale. I mean, maybe even with the Glam palette too. How long has this been out? It may be time for like a refresh. But yeah, I just love these palettes so much. So just had to mention them. In terms of eyeliner, the Hourglass Voyeur Waterproof Gel Liner in the shade Cave, which is like a deep brown. This is, it's just become the eyeliner I always reach for. I just love it. I mainly tightline with it. Sometimes I'll use it in my waterline, but I love tightlining with it. It goes on so smoothly and it never, ever budges. With that being said, it is a little bit tough to take off, so I just use like a makeup remover and I just kind of hold it there. I also have like waterproof mascara on, so I'll just hold like a makeup remover on my eye area for a while, and it does break down eventually, but it is a little bit difficult to remove, more difficult to remove than a lot of like kohl pencils or whatever, because this is waterproof. But it is so good. It's so good. It's so smooth. It just glides on. It never irritates my eyes, and it never ever smudges. And I do have it in my waterline today. The last thing I wanted to mention in terms of eyes, I can't find this. I think I just traveled with this, so maybe I left it somewhere, but the Lancome Lash Idole mascara. I love that mascara. It is like in my top 3. You guys know how much I love the Wayne Goss waterproof mascara, which is what I'm wearing today because I could not find this Lash Idole mascara. I also love the Surratt Noir Lash Tint, and then the Lancome Lash Idole. Like, to me, that's like, I was going to say the top 3, but I have the Chantecaille Faux Cils I also love. I mean, it's kind of this like rotating list, right? But it is up there. It is definitely up in my like top 5 mascaras. And I don't know what I did with it. I'm really kind of bummed. Anyway, it's a gorgeous mascara. I love the wand. It's kind of like banana shaped. I'll throw pictures up here if I can find some of the actual wand, not just the tube. But it's, yeah, it's just a great mascara. And I love this like very kind of petite plastic bristle brush. It just works for me. I just find them easier to use, less messy. I, don't get it all over my eyelid or whatever. It's amazing. And the Lancome Lash Idole, it like separates, it lengthens, it really does like a My Lash but better sort of look. So love that mascara. I have to find it. And if I don't find it, I'm definitely going to be picking one up during this sale. All right. Let's move on to lips. I have quite a few lip products here to talk about. Let's talk about what I have on my lips. And as you guys know, come spring, summer, warmer months or whatever, I love to like bronze up my skin and wear like a really bright red orange lipstick. It's just, when the weather is warm, it's just like my happy place. And I wanted to mention the Armani Lip Powers. I probably have mentioned this in many Sephora recommendation videos at this point. But I love every single thing about these lip products. I love the shade range. It's very extensive. There's a lot of nudes in there, which you guys know I really love. I love the formula. They go on like a cream lipstick, but they're not like a liquid lipstick where they don't transfer or anything like that. But they really have like quite a bit of staying power. It's very impressive. It's very impressive. I love the shape of the actual lipstick, this teardrop shape. It makes them very easy to apply. They're also a little bit more slender than the typical lipstick. I just feel like all lipsticks should look like this, just so easy to apply. So yeah, I have like no complaints about any aspect of this lipstick. Formula, packaging, shape, wear, like everything, colors, just gorgeous. So the Armani Lip Powers, I just continue to love. The Merit Signature Lipsticks, these are products I continue to love. I will probably wear these a little bit more now that we're hitting spring summer, because these are kind of like a sheer lipstick, almost like a tinted balm. So this shade Slip is probably the one I reach for the most. It's just, you know, neutral, beautiful, kind of cools down the natural tone to my lips. And then 1990 I really love. I probably wore this more in the fall winter time, but it's like more of a fudgy kind of brown. And I really love the formula, and I do like that the pigmentation of these are a little bit on the lighter side. They're just great, and I think they're perfect for the spring summertime because of that, because they just have like kind of a light naturalness to them. I have a bunch of other shades. I have like Millennial, which is more of a pink. I have Cabo, which is more of like an orangey red, but it's deeper. There's something about that orange red which isn't like, it's not like bright enough for me. Like this is bright, and I really, really like that brightness. Anyway, I really love Slip and 1990. These are my two favorites, or the two that I reach for the most. And another new lip product that really impressed me are these Hourglass Unlocked lipsticks in the shade Oasis. This is the one that I definitely wear the most. And these are just kind of like a straight up cream lipstick, but I love, love, love the texture of them. They remind me of the Tom Ford lipsticks, just really, really creamy, very well pigmented. They just glide on, but they're not messy in any way. They're just like a rock solid cream lipstick, like one that's not going to steer you wrong. So wanted to mention these. I definitely reach for the shade Oasis the most. I have a few other ones. Shore is one that I like as well, but Oasis is my first pick. This next product is brand new to me, but I was so impressed with it. I'm a little hesitant to mention it in this recommendations video because it is so new, but I just had to share with you the Tom Ford Liquid Lip Luxe Matte Lippies. I have it in the shade 120 Naked Haze. And it's like a liquid lipstick in that it does not transfer. I was really surprised. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was just gonna be like a liquid lipstick that, I don't know, is like 90% transferable, but it doesn't transfer. It does dry down to a matte. I'm gonna let this sit here for a while, but this is a shade 120. It's a lip product that you would never think that I would enjoy. I like my moisturizing, balmy, sheer kind of lip products. This is like a liquid lipstick. However, this formula is like no other formula I have ever experienced. Once it sets down on your lips, it doesn't feel like there's anything on your lips. It's so strange. It's not like, oh, it's comfortable. You don't feel anything. It's so bizarre. It really doesn't feel like you have anything on your lips, but you very clearly have a liquid lipstick on your lips. I have never felt anything like this ever before. If any of you guys have tried this out there, please let us know down below in the comments section if your experience is the same, because it's almost unbelievable to me. I actually wore this like 4 times now. I wore it out the day that I actually filmed it for the first time, and I was like, I kept like pressing my lips together, like thinking, is it eventually gonna get tacky or look weird? It was great. It did wear off when I ate something that was pretty oily. It did wear off after lunch, but it really felt like nothing. And then I tried it again just to continue to impress me, like how undetectable it felt on my lips. And I am still waiting for it to set down completely. But anyway, I love this. Let's return to this swatch so I can show you that it is like immovable. Okay, so the last 2 lip products I wanted to mention are from Tower 28. I love these products. So these Juice Balm tinted lip balms, I made like a shorts out of these. I mentioned them specifically in a vlog. These are awesome. These are really, really great. In fact, I was tempted to wear this one, Squeeze, today instead of this lip power, but I haven't worn the lip powers in a while, so I thought that was kind of a better choice. But look at this Squeeze. So these shades are just like popsicle, perfect spring summer shades. This one is Drink, and these are just tinted lip balms, but they actually like stayed on my lips. I mean, not anything like this Tom Ford or anything, but a lot better than a lot of tinted lip products out there. This shade Mix is probably the most kind of like everyday shade for me. It's like little nude, little peachy. And then here's the pink one, which is Shake. This one is like the most translucent, this Shake. But I really love Squeeze and I really love Mix. These two shades I wear the most. So these are really, really wonderful. Just a great, great tinted balm. It's just perfect, perfect for the warmer months. And then I've been loving these liners from Tower 28. Now I've been using them as a lip liner, but I know they are, oh yes, so they're called one liner. They're a multi-liner. So from deepest to lightest, this one is Draw Me, Work of Art, and Fill Me In. And Work of Art, let me do a swatch, is the one I've been using the most because it's the most nude. That right there. They go on really, really smoothly. They do set down, but you can kind of blend them out a little bit, especially if you use them on your lips. This one is Draw Me. This is the deeper, darker one. And then Fill Me In is the lightest shade here. It's like the pinkiest. So I use these two shades the most, but just a really great texture. And I love the shades. Like this is such a perfect nude lip liner shade. Really, really love it. So I wanted to mention these. And that is it. But let's take a look at this Tom Ford swatch. So I don't want to get it in the other swatches. But yeah, like nothing comes off on my finger. So it's non-transferable, it's matte, but it feels like nothing on your lips. It's really amazing. I'm gonna see during the sale, I'm gonna see if there are other shades that I may like maybe something like this. We'll have to see, but that was the only, I felt like the only kind of like neutral, my lips but better kind of shade is at 120. So that is it. I will link to all of these products down below in my description box if you're interested, and I'll also have the dates to the sales, like when you can start shopping. It is tonight at midnight for Rouge members, midnight East Coast time, 9 p.m. Pacific time. Have a great time shopping. I hope this video helped you out, and subscribe down below if you haven't already. I'll see you in my next video.